Your boy Motor City Don P, and we are back once again. You know, it's just the Motor City Cats back at it. I came to give you stats, not static, but whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. We're going to go ahead and get into our preview show today because tomorrow is Saturday and the day after that is Sunday, and that is the day when the game happens. That's right. The Jacksonville Jaguars come to town to take on your Detroit Lions. And by all intents and purposes, it's setting up to be a blowout. It's setting up to be another Jacksonville Jaguars type of game. Not Jacksonville Jaguars, sorry. Tennessee Titans type of game. You know, you need the Spider-Man meme where both of them are like pointing at each other. You know, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans pointing at each other. But at least the Tennessee Titans can boast some stats about their defense. But we're going to get into why total defense doesn't really matter, and it doesn't really show the accurate assessment of what your team is doing defensively, or anything of that nature, right? I think they're top 5 in total defense, but I mean, they've given up so many touchdowns, it doesn't matter. You understand what I'm saying? So that is one thing that we're going to look at with the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to talk about stats for offense, defense. We're going to talk about stats for the Detroit Lions offense and defense and all these things. We're going to get into all that. We're going to have some Lions news and rumors. We're going to talk injury reports, who's in, who's out, because they came out and all these things. So we're going to talk about all of that when we get into everything. But let me get to something very interesting. First and foremost, before I get into any of the things with the game, I want to get into, let me see this here. Oh, all right. I gotta, all right. I can't do anything about that right now. I'm going to get into, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I forgot this. I forgot my victory buffs. That's the issue, okay? I forgot the issue buffs. All right, so I'm going to get into something that I saw. Hall of Famer doubles down on terrible Detroit Lions take. Now, I was told that we were done with this. All of the slander and the hate from the national media, we were supposed to be done with it. But as Lions fans, we know that is not the case. That is never going to happen because we are the Detroit Lions. And until we win the Super Bowl, that's not going to happen. We're always going to have that hate. We're always going to have, whether it's a former player, whether it's an announcer that's been announcing for a long time who just has this taste in their mouths about the Detroit Lions. Look, whenever you have the little brother or whatever you want to call it, and they're down all the time, and then they come up, there's a lot of people that do not want to watch them come up. They do not want to admit that they've come up. They do not want to admit that they've changed and they've turned a corner and what have you. They just don't want to, because everybody needs someone to step on. It's the same thing in life. If you've ever seen a person and that person is used to being downtrodden or whatever the case may be, and there's someone lower than them, mostly they don't take the high road. They're just going to go and attack the person that's lower than them, and they're going to revel in the misery. Why? Because misery loves company, right? And if you are miserable, you love that someone is more miserable than you. This is what happens, okay? So, not saying that this person is miserable, but I'm just saying everybody needs someone to step on. Everybody needs it to happen. And this guy enjoys stepping on the Detroit Lions. So it says NFL Hall of Famer doubles down on terrible Detroit Lions take. And this is an article written by Mike Moratis for the Sporting News. So it says, when it comes to the best teams in the NFL, there are two that stand out above the rest in the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs. The nod goes to the Chiefs right now because they are the reigning Super Bowl champs and the only undefeated team left in the NFL. But the Lions, who are coming off a season in which they were 30 minutes away from the Super Bowl, are right there with the champs after posting an 8-1 record and looking very good in the process. Granted, last week was a mess, but the performance was an outlier, and the Lions finding a way to win despite the adversity. Stay with me now. And the Lions finding a way to win despite the adversity only adds another notch on their belt. One NFL Hall of Famer and analyst doesn't subscribe to the idea that the Lions are tops in the NFC. During the Thursday Night Football pregame show on Amazon Prime, former tight end Tony Gonzalez made the stunning claim that the Philadelphia Eagles, not the Lions, are the best team in the conference. He then doubled down on the take following the game when given an opportunity to walk it back. Here's what Gonzalez said. He said, "I'm still going to stand by that," Gonzalez said. "Detroit Lions, obviously, and I've said they were really, really good. But Jared Goff, I know it was just one game, but I just look at the Eagles' offense, defense. They need a kicker. Jake Elliott, something's got to happen with that kicker because he's got to play better than that. But I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC." The Eagles won their Thursday night matchup over the Washington Commanders to improve to 8-2, making them the second team in the conference to have 8 wins, along with Detroit. Philly is also in the midst of a 6-game win streak. However, the Lions have been a step better than the Eagles all season long and are currently on a 7-game winning streak. The Lions have also had a tougher slate with Detroit beating 4 teams that currently sport a winning record, while the Eagles have beaten just 2. This is not a knock on the Eagles, who are clearly a good team, but the Lions are just a better all-around squad right now and have more evidence to prove it. All right, so if you saw that, just a fan, what's going on, my guy? Yes, sir. Glad you're back. Glad you found me. So anyway, if you watched the Thursday night game, the game with about, what was it? I didn't see the clock at the time, but in the fourth quarter, it was 10-12. And they ultimately won the game, the Philadelphia Eagles. They ultimately won the game 10 to, 26? No. It was 26-18. Okay? Here's the thing about that game. The score at one point in the fourth quarter was 26-10 Philadelphia Eagles. It should have been 13-12 Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders were on about the 25-30 yard line of the Philadelphia Eagles. Going in, they had a drive in which on 2nd and inches, they got stuffed and may have lost a yard. And then on 3rd and inches or 3rd and 1, they went backwards and lost another 1 or 2 yards. So then you got to 4th and 2. And Dan Quinn decides to call a play, and the play was doomed from the start. It was a bobbled snap, and nothing happened. They lost yards. Jaden Daniels got smacked. Give the ball back to Philadelphia. Philadelphia goes and very quickly scores on that drive. Now, you kick the field goal there. It's 13-12. You have the lead. And then you kick the ball off, whether they're going to return it or not. They're in somewhere in between the 20 and the 30. Okay, if you kick it into the end zone, they take the touchback. They're there at the 30, and they've got to go 70 yards. You have the lead now. Pressure is on them because here's the issue. We talked about Jake Elliott. Jake Elliott was missing everything. He made the last 2 extra points, but he had missed an extra point. He had missed a couple field goals. Like, he just wasn't doing anything. So you've got that guy. The Eagles are now behind 13-12, and they're like, well, we have to score a touchdown because there's no way that we can grind this thing out and put it on the leg of Jake Elliott because he's not gonna deliver. Okay? This was the issue. So when you watch that game and then they have Tony Gonzalez come out and be like, no, they're clearly better than the Detroit Lions, I just don't know how you have that take. And again, the only way that you have that take is for there to be a little bit of hate. There was some hatred there. You know, yes, you give the Detroit Lions their backhanded flowers. Okay, you know, Jared Goff, that was only I know it was just one game, and they only became the second team in the last 50 years. Okay, I think it was the Colts and Bears in 1970, right? So what is that? 54 years. Okay, so you became the only team in 54 years, or the second team in 54 years to win a game after throwing 5+ interceptions and trailing by 15+ points. That's a feat. That is an outlier. That is an anomaly in a game that was also anomalous. Okay, and a performance by our offense that was also an outlier. We trumped that by becoming another one of the outliers in winning that football game. But the flowers are not to be given to the Detroit Lions in some people's minds. In some people's minds, and I'll tell you exactly what they're waiting for. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I'm not particularly waiting for the other shoe to drop because I believe in this Detroit Lions football team the same way that I did not think going into the half at 23-7 versus the Houston Texans that we were out of the game. Okay? The same way that when I looked at us being down by 10 points, 23-13 in the second half, I did not think that we were out of the game. Okay, I believe that the game was very winnable, and you can go back and look at my tweets, okay, or my posts, or whatever you want to call them. Okay, that's all I was saying. There was never doom and gloom. There was never like, oh, we lost this one. Time to go back to the drawing board. You know, Jared Goff, this is on him. Yada yada. I didn't do any of that because I didn't need to. Because I have faith in this Detroit Lions team. As you see, my chat right now, it's light. We got Just a Fan in here. What is going on, my guy? Appreciate you for joining us. And we will move on to some other things. All right. So, Detroit Lions. Let's see. Did I see that Carlton Davis broke his thumb Thursday in practice trying to press Amon-Ra St. Brown? We're going to talk about the injuries. We're going to talk about the injuries. All right. So let's see. Well, let's look at the injury report. Thank you for reminding me, Just a Fan. So our injury report. Final injury report. We have tight end Sam LaPorta, who's out with a shoulder injury. We know he has the AC sprain. There's really no reason to bring him back. Defensive tackle Broderick Martin, knee, is out. Safety Ifeatu Melifonwu, ankle, finger, out. Cornerback Emmanuel Mosley, pectoral, out. Linebacker Ben Neiman, ankle, questionable. Offensive tackle Taylor Decker, shoulder, no designation. So Taylor Decker is playing. We have Carlton Davis, hand, no designation, so he's playing. So even though he did break his thumb on Thursday, obviously it wasn't like a huge break. Okay. So it's just, you can call a break a fracture a break, and it doesn't mean that it's like catastrophic, right? It could just be like a crack in his bone. So very minor. Linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez ankle, no designation. So Malcolm Rodriguez is back in the fold. Welcome back, Malcolm Rodriguez. As we have some of our other linebacker depth in Ben Neiman dealing with an ankle. He's questionable. He probably will play. All right, so it says LaPorta, unsurprisingly, as officially out for Sunday's game. Brock Wright steps in as the Lions' #1 tight end in his place with Shane Zylstra and James Mitchell. It says working him. Don't know what that part means. I guess spelling him or being his backups would probably be better. So Martin Melifonwu and Mosley are in their 21-day evaluation window to be activated off of IR. Martin is near the end of his window to be added to the 53-man roster with 4 days left now, and while Melifonwu and Mosley have 11 days left to be added to the active roster. And we know they're going to slow play these guys and make sure that they're not making any snap or rash decisions to bring them back before they are ready. So they're going to use the entirety of the window to evaluate them. This is usually what they do. It's par for the course for the Detroit Lions. So Davis popped up on Thursday's practice report with a hand injury. He revealed to reporters in the locker room on Friday that he broke his thumb while battling wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown during Thursday's practice, but he'll cast it up and play on Sunday. To that end, he's got no designation for the game after logging a full practice on Friday. Okay. Yeah. Same thing, Jessica. We're on the same page. So Neiman was noted by reporters as not being on the practice field on Friday, and it seems he's legitimately questionable with an ankle injury. Decker missed week 10 with a shoulder injury, but he is good to go for Sunday. And if you heard Taylor Decker's press conference or his media availability at his locker, he was very down on himself and very, what would you say? I can't really say holding himself accountable because he didn't play. And he didn't play because of injury, but he felt like the performance of Jared Goff was single-handedly his fault. Now, usually we'll say, injury, and I could agree with Taylor Decker. I mean, I didn't expect Taylor Decker to hold up and completely stonewall Danielle Hunter, but I obviously also wouldn't have expected him to give up 9 pressures to Danielle Hunter. I mean, Taylor Decker is very familiar with Danielle Hunter. He's very familiar with him, right? Danielle Hunter comes over this offseason from the Minnesota Vikings in our division. We played Danielle Hunter twice a year, okay, for a number of years. We played him a lot. He played us a lot. He's very familiar with us. We're very familiar with him, okay? Was Taylor Decker going to give up 9 pressures to Danielle Hunter? Probably not. Okay, so that's probably why he believes that it was his fault and solely his fault, and he doesn't think really that any of those interceptions would have been thrown if it was him in there and not Dan Skipper. And it might not have been 5. Probably would have been some. I mean, the pressure was, it was on the level of the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, it was on the level of the Minnesota Vikings. So here's the Friday injury report for the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence out, Mac Jones. Mac Jones, who is MacJones.com? All right, if you know, you know. Hashtag. All right, Jones will make his second straight start under center. I think Mac Jones has about 139 passing yards this season. Okay, so last week was his first start, and I guess he got most of those 139 yards last week. So Trevor Lawrence, left shoulder is out. He's also dealing with the same injury or the same location of the injury in the AC joint as Sam LaPorta. So both of them will be out. Running back Tank Bigsby, ankle out. Okay, so we won't have to deal with the Tank. So offensive guard Ezra Cleveland, ankle questionable. Defensive tackle Mason Smith, ankle questionable. Running back Keelan Robinson, toe questionable. If there's, I'll have to address that. Having some sound issues apparently. So yeah, I'll have to address that next time. So that is theirs. Trevor Lawrence is out. Tank Bigsby is out. Ezra Cleveland is questionable. Mason Smith is questionable. Keelan Robinson is questionable. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a bad team with Trevor Lawrence. The Jacksonville Jaguars are, I don't know if they're a worse team. I guess they're a worse team without Trevor Lawrence. Here's the thing about Trevor Lawrence. I don't see it. Okay? I don't see it. Now, when we look at the contracts, there were lots of Lions fans that did not think that we should have paid Jared Goff. And Jared Goff, for most of the year, has proven them incorrect. We did have that blip of a game, that outlier of a game where he threw the 5 interceptions just last week versus the Texans, but we still won the game. We did start off the first 2 games a little bit slow. Okay, we started off a little bit slow offensively. Some of that was Ben Johnson. Some of that was Jared Goff. And some of the plays that Ben Johnson was calling, Jared Goff was audibling out of them, didn't like the look or whatever the case may be. So there was a bit of miscommunication between offensive coordinator and quarterback. That's 3 games out of 9. The other 6 games, Jared Goff has been fantastic. He's been an all-world quarterback. He was even firmly inside of the conversation in the top 3 for MVP. There was Lamar Jackson. There was Josh Allen. There was Jared Goff. Now, I don't know if it was in that order. A lot of people think that voting fatigue is going to cause Lamar Jackson not to get his 3rd in a row. Not in a row, but he's not going to get his 3rd MVP, right? With the way he's playing and the game that Goff had last week. Now, that's just last week. He could go out against the Jaguars and throw 5 touchdowns and no picks, which is pretty likely because the Jaguars defense isn't great, despite what you saw last week, where the Jaguars kept the Minnesota Vikings out of the end zone for the entirety of the game. The 12 points that the Minnesota Vikings scored in the 12-7 victory were all on the foot of their kicker. They did not cross the goal line, even with Justin Jefferson out there and so on and so forth. But when Sam Darnold throws 3 picks, you understand that the Vikings offense is not as high-powered as the Detroit Lions offense, even though they do have Justin Jefferson. They do have Aaron Jones. They do have Jordan Addison. I think that was TJ Hawkinson's first game back. They've got pieces, but they don't have the straw to stir the drink and bring it all together, whether that is Sam Darnold not being who people thought he was during the 5-game, 5-0 stretch that they went on. Whether it was, it's Kevin O'Connell not being as good as an offensive play caller as Ben Johnson. I mean, he's an extraordinary offensive head coach, right? But for some reason, the Jacksonville Jaguars at home were able to pretty much stonewall the offense of the Minnesota Vikings. Do I expect that to happen in the game against the Detroit Lions? I do not. I expect the Detroit Lions to get back on track. I expect the Detroit Lions, and especially having the experience with the Tennessee Titans, a team that you were supposed to to beat the brakes off of. And you did. Right? You came out a little bit slow. You came out a little bit lethargic. It was 14-14 at one time. And then that was the last point that they scored. They scored 14 points. They put up 2 touchdowns on you. And for the rest of the game, they did nothing. At one point in the fourth quarter, they were trying to run the clock out. The Tennessee Titans, trailing 52-14, they were the ones running out the clock. It wasn't the team that scored 52 points. No, they were waving the white flag and going, no mas, bro. No mas. Please. Just stop scoring on us. You know, that was the type of energy that the Jacksonville Jaguars were giving off. I mean, the Tennessee Titans. And hopefully on Monday we'll be talking about how the Jacksonville Jaguars are giving off the same energy. Okay? So just a fan, in case you were wondering, Monday you'll see me, same time. Okay, 7 p.m. I might do every day next week. But the day I'll probably take off will be Thursday. So yeah, I'll probably do 4 lives next week, Monday through Wednesday, and then off on Thursday, and then Friday. I think that's something that works for me as far as the schedule and how I'm maneuvering in a different way with my schedule these days. So anyway, back to what we were saying. The Jacksonville Jaguars we're predicting them to be waving the white flag just like the Tennessee Titans. But with Trevor Lawrence, and how I like to Freudianly, slippantly, I don't think that's a word, but I just made it up. So Freudian slip is not an adjective, but I just made it an adjective, okay? Because I'm good like that with the talking thing, okay? So how I Freudianly, slippantly like to call Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Noah, okay? Because that's just, I don't do it on purpose. It's a Freudian slip, but it happens, okay? So sometimes I call him Trevor Noah accidentally. But Trevor Lawrence with the golden locks, Rapunzel, let down your hair. I don't see it, okay? I don't see it. And I was watching Armani and Edwards the other day, and I don't remember the guy's name, forgive me. But they had a Jacksonville Jaguars radio announcer on the show. And what his take on Trevor Lawrence was, Trevor Lawrence, in a nutshell, is a bad decision maker. He doesn't make the right decisions, and you're left scratching your head about the decisions that he makes. Okay? Some of the interceptions that he's thrown should have just been throw them away and live to fight another day. I think there was an interception thrown like in the end zone on first down, and it's like, well, if you don't have the throw that you were looking for on first down, you just throw it out of the back of the end zone because you got 3 more downs. You understand what I'm saying? So it's just that type of thing with Trevor Lawrence. So I don't know if the Jacksonville Jaguars are a better team with Trevor Lawrence or if they're a better team without Trevor Lawrence. I know that Mac Jones was, let me get the exact pick, because I call him a top 10 pick. Let me see, where was he picked by the Patriots? Yeah, he was number 15. Okay, so no, he's not top 10. All right, so Mac Jones was 15th overall. Okay, and this was the Trey Lance draft. Okay, remember when everyone was in love with Trey Lance, and we thought because Trey Lance is another one. Okay, a lot of these quarterbacks that we're seeing these days, Jared Goff is the same, have been ruined by their first situation. Okay? Jared Goff just so happened to come to his second situation And not initially by all of the fans, and I'll keep saying I was one of them. Not initially by all of the fans, but he was embraced by Brad Holmes because he was there when they drafted him in LA. He was embraced by Dan Campbell. He was embraced by Ben Johnson, right? He was embraced in the internal culture of the Detroit Lions. There were some fans that embraced him. There were some fans that saw it. Some fans followed his career for whatever reason closer than the majority of fans. When I saw Jared Goff on the football field for the Detroit Lions for the first time, I was done. I wanted to throw up. Okay? And that first season, I just wanted him out of town so quickly. So this is what Mac Jones. This is not the path of Mac Jones. Mac Jones was in a situation where he was actively ruined by Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick had Matt Patricia being his coordinator. Okay? We can get to Caleb Williams, just a fan. I like talking about Caleb Williams. So we'll get to Caleb Williams. Mac Jones was in a situation where Matt Patricia was his offensive coordinator. And Mac Jones was like visibly like on the field arguing with some of the crazy things that Matt Patricia was calling. And then I think his second one was Bill O'Brien. And Bill O'Brien, he's kind of a hard-nosed, no-nonsense coach, likes to yell and be angry. I don't know if that was the right fit for Mac Jones, and clearly it wasn't because they moved on from Mac Jones rather quickly. I think he was in New England for 2 years, right? Trey Lance, same situation. Trey Lance comes in, San Francisco 49ers traded everything for him, in a Ricky Williams type deal, which, the Ricky Williams deal was crazy. You have to go back and look that up, right? It wasn't a Ricky Williams type deal. That's just something I'm kind of comparing it to. But they gave up the farm for Trey Lance, and because of the situation that Trey Lance came into, they had given up the farm for him, and they expected him to play right away. Trey Lance went to North Dakota State University. He barely played North Dakota State. That COVID year, their season was shortened. He had attempted like 200 passes in college, something like this, which was crazy, right? In the grand scheme of things, remember when Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions lost to Tampa Bay? Jared Goff threw 55 passes in that game. Trey Lance had thrown 200 passes in college. So Trey Lance wasn't ready to be in the situation that he was in. And he's maybe irrevocably broken because he doesn't look good at all after being, getting injured and then, ending the season and then coming back and not being able to beat out Brock Purdy and then getting traded to the Cowboys. What does he do? He goes into there's a preseason game where he threw 5 picks. Then he gets into the Cowboys game and he throws a pick. And while the pick wasn't his fault, the last 2 times we've seen him, he's thrown 6 picks. Now, 5 picks in preseason doesn't matter because the preseason doesn't mean anything. But he's thrown 6 picks the last 2 times we've seen him in the NFL. So I think Trey Lance is irrevocably broken unless he's got to get to a situation where he is actively being developed. And he's a reclamation project. He's got to go to a place where they want to say, look, we're going to sit you down for the entire year. You're not going to play anything. But what we're going to do is we're going to teach you, we're going to coach you up because we know you have the physical tools We know you have the big, huge arm. We know you have the scrambling ability. We know you are, built like Josh Allen, okay, who was in the same conference, went to Wyoming. We know that you have all of that, but we're just going to get it out of you, and there's no pressure on you. Okay, you're not going to start. You're not going to play. We just want to take an entire year to reclaim your skills, to reclaim your confidence, so that you can believe that you can do it, because we believe in you. This was the same situation that Baker Mayfield found himself in. Not exactly with all of that, but with Tampa Bay, he went to a place where they believed in him. Okay, with Jared Goff, he went to a place where they believed in him. In Detroit. Okay, Sam Darnold is interesting. Yes, they believe in him for this year, but Sam Darnold wasn't competing to be the number one guy for a stretch of time. J.J. McCarthy is going to be that guy, and he knows that. But for this year, they said we can rock with Sam Darnold, and it's not going to be an issue. And that was a little bit of belief, I guess, that he needed. Okay? So Mac Jones is out there broken, and we're getting a broken quarterback coming in versus a quarterback who got paid like Jared Goff got paid. He got, a really big deal. And that's what we were talking about in the beginning. That deal was ridiculous because Trevor Lawrence, a.k.a. Trevor Noah, a.k.a. Rapunzel, has not shown you anything that would like, he really got paid on potential. Trevor Lawrence really got paid on potential. Like, when you draft a quarterback, when you draft any player, they're getting drafted on potential, right? Because while they've shown you everything they've shown you at the college level, it is not the professional level. They're not showing you the same thing. Do you expect it to translate? Well, when you pick someone number one overall, yes, you expect it to translate. When you pick someone in the top 10, you expect it to translate. When you pick someone in the first round, you expect it to translate, but you don't expect it sometimes to immediately translate. When Lamar Jackson got picked, 32nd overall, he wasn't the starter, right? I think Joe Flacco was still starting. But at some point, it was like, all right, well, Lamar, we did get you in the first round. You have been sitting. We are losing. John Harbaugh was maybe going to get fired. Let's put in Lamar and see what he can do. Okay? So he got that grace because he wasn't the number one overall pick. If he was the number one overall pick, he's just going into Baltimore, installed as a starter day one. And because I'm very good at tying things together, right? Right, Justin fan? Let's talk about Caleb Williams. Same situation. Caleb Williams was drafted to be the starter. There was not any thought. Okay? When they named him the number one or the starting quarterback, it was just this dog and pony show, right? It was just ridiculous. Okay? Caleb Williams, if you remember, when he was drafted, he texted the punter. And he told the punter he wasn't going to be doing a lot of punting this season. Caleb Williams did that. Never stepping into an NFL facility. Like, obviously, he had stepped into NFL facilities during the draft process, going on pre-draft visit, to Chicago and all these things, right? But, so basically said Chicago wouldn't need a punter and, texted the punter and told him, whatever, you're not going to be doing a lot of punting this year. Boy, was he wrong. Now, Caleb Williams is not like these other quarterbacks that I spoke to you about. He's not like Trevor Lawrence. He's not like Baker Mayfield. He's not like Sam Darnold. He's not like Trey Lance. He's not like Jared Goff. The problem with Caleb Williams is arrogant. Okay? That's his problem. And this is the thing that you could see from him texting a punter. You're a rookie, bro. You've never thrown a pass in the NFL. Okay? And again, I'll keep saying this. I said I didn't watch Caleb Williams play football at USC last season. I didn't watch it live. I didn't watch any of the replays. But what I did do is there was someone, and shout out to whoever this was because I don't remember who did it, but there was someone that took every single play that Caleb Williams not that was involved in, but everything that was orchestrated by him. So every pass that he threw and every run that he took off on. Okay, so obviously didn't have the handoffs and all these things because that's not what that person was showing you. They were showing you the full workload of Caleb Williams as the offense. Okay, whether he was throwing or whether he was running. And the thing that I was able to understand from watching that, it was over an hour of gameplay, was that Caleb Williams was in love with hero ball. Okay? Caleb Williams was believing in his own hype, but it was too untrue. Shout out Lupe Fiasco, Chicago legend. You see how I do these things? It's easy. It just comes so easily. But anyway, this was the problem with Caleb Williams, and I said if Caleb Williams does not have a coach or coaching staff that can coach the hero ball out of him, he is going to struggle. He is not going to be good in the NFL, and I've been correct so far. Okay, Caleb Williams was sacked 9 times last week. Caleb Williams has been sacked 15 times in the last 2 weeks. Sacked 9 last week, sacked 6 the week before. Is it going up? Is he going to get sacked 12 times this week versus the Green Bay Packers? We'll see. Okay, but when you get your offensive coordinator fired, now Shane Waldron wasn't a great offensive coordinator. Remember the Jackson Smith and Jigba interview at the Super Bowl when they asked him about Shane Waldron, and he was like, is this live? is it live? You know, it's just like when that is all you needed to know. I don't even know what happened with the rest of his answer. I know he was kind of trying to pick around. Chris Olave was sitting next to him. Chris Olave plays for the New Orleans Saints. Chris Olave was like, when they asked that question. He was like, oh, boy, here it comes. Like, he had that look on his face like, yeah, we've been talking about Shane Waldron for weeks, bro. That dude's trash, okay? Granted, all of that may have been true. But Caleb Williams leads the league in being sacked while holding the ball for 4 seconds. You cannot in the NFL hold the ball for 4 seconds. When they talked about his pocket presence and his poise in the pocket and all that stuff that they talked about during this preseason, when he was playing against guys that are going to go back to work at the Piggly Wiggly at the end of the preseason, okay, or going back to their construction jobs or going back to whatever jobs that they have, not as NFL football players because they're not the guys getting paid millions. When he was going against those guys, that's what I said. I said, wait till he goes up against the guys that are getting paid millions. The Chicago Bears have 4 wins. Each of their 4 wins came against a team that only had 1 win at the time. If Will Levis wasn't such a dumpster fire, they would have lost to the Tennessee Titans. Let that sink in. The Tennessee Titans also have 3 wins. They are 1 win behind Chicago Bears. Okay, so without Will Levis doing Will Levis things, you can flip their record. Now the Tennessee Titans have won 4. And the Chicago Bears have won 3. Caleb Williams threw for less than 100 yards his first game. But I think I've accurately described the problem with Caleb Williams. All right. So Justin Fans has overinflated ego and underinflated talent. So here's the thing. Caleb Williams has the talent. He has the talent to be good in the NFL. I'm not gonna go the flannel Sam JMO route. I don't hope you have to hope the Bears beat the Pack because the Pack need to be dropped down the peg further behind us. But I'm not gonna go the flannel Sam route and say that I don't see the talent. He's got talent. But the problem that Caleb Williams, look, when you come in as a rookie, having never played a snap, and you tell a punter that he's not going to be punting much this year, when you come in as a rookie, having never played a snap in the NFL, asking for equity in the franchise, that is wildly ridiculous. I don't begrudge a man for trying to get his money and trying to get the perks and all the things and put that in the contract. Cool. Second contract, yes. First contract, rookie, never thrown a pass in the NFL? No. Why would they? Just because you're the number 1 overall pick doesn't mean you're going to be good. It doesn't mean you're going to be good. There have been busts at number 1 overall. Look at Jamarcus Russell. Okay. Trayvon Walker, who is not a bust, who is kind of coming into his own, getting back to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was picked number 1 overall over Hutch. And no one in their right mind would tell you that Trayvon Walker is better than Hutch. But he's also more of a Marcus Davenport than he is a Hutch. He's a big, powerful man. His game is on power. He's not bending the corner. He's not a Hutch. They're different types of edge rushers. He's also very good in the run game. Okay? So the Jacksonville Jaguars do have talent. However, they're not very good defensively. Now let's get into the defensive rankings. See, I tie everything together. Just so good. Anyway, not trying to toot my own horn. All right, so I said at the top that we're going to talk about total defensive stats and things like that, and we're going to kind of look at how they're not, indicative always of what's happening. He said he has talent, but he is so arrogant. Will he ever listen? I don't know. And that's the issue. Caleb Williams has to get a coach that he respects and he's willing to listen to. And I don't know who that is. I don't know who it is, and I don't know why that is. And it's not Lincoln Riley. Okay, because Lincoln Riley, if you were to hire Lincoln Riley away from USC, because they're probably going to fire Eberflus, and this is the last thing I'll say about the Bears. I mean, the Bears drama and turmoil is so delicious. We could eat it up for hours. But they're going to fire Matt Eberflus. You bring in Lincoln Riley because this is the coach that pretty much he followed from Oklahoma to USC, right? He loves Lincoln Riley, right? He respects Lincoln Riley. But the thing about Lincoln Riley is the one that gave him the license to be who he is. So now when you bring Lincoln Riley in as an NFL coach, and because Lincoln Riley is so overprotective of his players, does he come in with the right message? Does he come in and be like, yo, Caleb, cool, you did everything that you did in college, but you're not going to be able to do that in the NFL, and we've got to fix that? Or is he going to come in with like, all right, let's run it back. The gang's all here now. So it depends on if you were to hire that guy, who's the only one that I think he'll listen to at this point, because I don't know any other coaches that he will listen to. If you hire that guy, what is his mentality coming in as an NFL coach? Does he kind of rest on his laurels because he believes that he is there off of his ability to develop Caleb Williams and to deliver the number 1 overall pick to the NFL? Not just once, but 3 times. With Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray at Oklahoma, and then going from Oklahoma to USC, taking his Oklahoma quarterback and getting him to be the number 1 overall pick. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic as far as what the Bears are going to do and how they will fix Caleb Williams. But let's get back to the defensive stats. Now, as I said, total defense. The Eagles are number 1 in total defense, okay, through week 10. The Lions are number 20 in total defense. Now, that just means that the Eagles give up less yards. The Eagles give up 273.1 yards per game, while the Lions give up 345 yards per game. However, the Eagles have given up 18 touchdowns and the Lions have given up 17. Do yards win games? No. Do touchdowns win games? Yes. Okay? Points win games, not yards. So how are they so far separated? But the Detroit Lions have given up fewer touchdowns than the Eagles. Okay? They do both have 8 wins, but the expectation after this week, okay, week 11, is that the Lions will have 9 and the Eagles will be at 8 because they won their game. All right. The Jacksonville Jaguars, in comparison, are the last in the league. 390.6 yards per game. And they've also given up 30 touchdowns. The only team that's given up more than 30, and the Buccaneers have also given up 30. The only team that's given up more, okay, not the only team, but the team that's given up the most is the Panthers at 36. Okay, the Bengals have given up 32, so they've given up more than the Jaguars as well. All right. So here's the thing with the Detroit Lions. Outside of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, giving up yards to the Detroit Lions hurts you because they're extremely efficient in the red zone. I think they were like the number 1, red zone scoring offense. They had the streak for the longest. They had the longest streak with a touchdown drive in the red zone, ending in a touchdown. Right, a touchdown. So a trip to the red zone ends in a touchdown, and it was like 8 straight drives. I don't know if that streak is still going on. I would have to check it. But this is the type of team. So if you let the Detroit Lions sniff the red zone by giving up 390 yards plus, you give up 400 yards to the Detroit Lions. 200 of those are on the arm of Jared Goff. The other 200 are on the feet of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. This is an extremely high-powered offense. I think we're the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL or something like that, right? So it's extremely high-powered. So with the Jacksonville Jaguars giving up so many yards and also so many touchdowns, that total defense stat matters. Okay? That total defense stat matters. Now, let's look at the passing defense. Okay? The Titans are number 1 in the league, giving up 156.7 yards per game through the air. Again, stats are skewed. This is why, yes, I came to give you stats, not static, and whatever you do, keep your Lions news pragmatic. I am not solely a stat guy because numbers don't always tell the whole story. The Tennessee Titans were boosted in their stat of giving up 156.7 yards per game through the air by getting blown out by the Detroit Lions. It was a boost for that stat. Why was it a boost for the stat? It was a boost because the Detroit Lions threw for 85 yards before Jared Goff was removed from the game so that Hendon Hooker could go in and finish it out. The Detroit Lions were starting, I think, every drive except for the 70-yard Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown run. They started in plus territory. They were in the Tennessee Titans territory. So now the Tennessee Titans can be like, oh, well, we only give up 156 yards per game through the air. Well, 85 to the Detroit Lions because they didn't need to throw the football because they got gashed on special teams. Khalif Raymond had 200 yards returning. And he had one call back. Khalil Dorsey had a 70-yard kickoff return. Okay, so the stats, they lie sometimes. They say men lie, women lie, numbers don't. No, numbers lie. Numbers lie. The Tennessee Titans are not that good. They've also given up 13 passing touchdowns, while the number 2 passing defense, the New York Jets, at 168.3 yards per game, have given up 7 touchdowns. The number 3 Eagles have given up 9 touchdowns. Okay, so the Eagles are pretty even. They'll give you your 9 touchdowns rushing and your 9 touchdowns passing. Okay. The Texans, number 4, again, they gave up 21 touchdowns. Okay, so this is the thing. Now let's look at where the lowly Jaguars rank on this list, and we have to go all the way to again. Now look, the Lions are 26. Why are the Lions 26? Because you can't run the football on the Lions. You got to throw the football. So they give up 244.2 yards through the air per game. But guess how many touchdowns they've given up in the air, through the air? 7. 7. You understand what I'm saying? 7. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they give up 20 more yards. Well, actually less than 20, about 15 more yards than the Detroit Lions, 26.1 or 261.2 yards per game through the air, but they've also given up 19 passing touchdowns. So the Houston Texans are giving up less than 200 yards per game on through the air, but they have also given up 21 touchdowns. The the Jaguars are giving up almost 300 yards per game plus 19 touchdowns on top of that. So, all right, Justin fan, we'll catch you later, man. Over the last 4 weeks, yeah, probably better than the Eagles, for sure. All right, so the Jacksonville Jaguars, again, are coming in these ratings, but there's no outliers, okay? Let's look at the rushing defense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, number 1 rushing defense in the league is the Ravens, at 73 yards per game and giving up 7. Okay, 7 touchdowns. Now the Lions are. This is the crazy part. The Lions are sixth, giving up 100.8 rushing yards per game. From where? Where are they giving up 100 yards per game? Okay. Again. All right. The running back that got the most yards per in a game was Josh Jacobs, who got 90 yards in the first half and 5 yards in the second. Men lie, women lie, so do numbers. Okay? We haven't given up a 100-yard rusher in a very long time. But there have been some games, I guess, where we've given up over 100 yards. And this is why the average is 100.8. But we've also given up 9 rushing touchdowns, which is 2 more than the number 1 rushing defense in the Baltimore Ravens. Correct? All right. Where are the Jacksonville Jaguars on this list? Jacksonville Jaguars are 21st. They give up 129.4 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. Okay? They give up 129.4 yards per game on the ground, and they've also given up 11 touchdowns. All right? Scoring, the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, rushing defense, is also not good. Let's look at scoring defense. The Chargers have the number 1 scoring defense. Okay? The Lions have the number 8 scoring defense. And before the Texans game, they were the number 1. I'm not number 1. They were number 5. Okay? Now the Chargers truly have the number 1 scoring defense. They're at 13.1. And they've allowed 12 total touchdowns. The Steelers, who are number 2, are 16.2. Right? That's a whole 3.1 points per game more than the number 1. Okay? And they've given up 15 total touchdowns. And then after you depart from the Steelers, you've got a lot of people that are very close. The Vikings, 17.4, 19 touchdowns. Broncos, 17.7, 18 touchdowns. Chiefs, 17.9, 18 touchdowns. Eagles, 17.9, 18 touchdowns. Okay, so they're dead even. Bears, 18.6, 15 touchdowns. Lions, 19, 17 touchdowns. Okay, so the Lions give up 19 points per game. Still below 20. Okay, still top 10. Now, let's go find the Jaguars. Where are the Jaguars? Jaguars are 27th. They're giving up 26.4 points per game, and they've given up 30 touchdowns. Okay? So the Jacksonville Jaguars give up 7 more points per game than the Detroit Lions at 17.4 points per game. But, 0.4 doesn't matter. And they've given up 11 more touchdowns than the Detroit Lions. Red zone defense. The Detroit Lions are 3rd. Chicago Bears are 1st. Okay? This is red zone TD rate. Chicago Bears are 1st with a 37.0 TD rate. So if you enter the red zone versus the Chicago Bears, you're gonna score 37. You're gonna score a touchdown 37% of the time. If you enter the red zone versus the Detroit Lions, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Broncos, who are all tied for 3rd, you're gonna score a touchdown 44.4 times per trip. Or there's a 44.4% chance that when you enter the red zone against the Detroit Lions, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Denver Broncos, that you will score a touchdown. So you get the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're 23rd. There's a 60.3% chance that you will give up. I'm sorry, 60.5. Okay, 60.5% chance that you will score a touchdown against the Jacksonville Jaguars when you enter the red zone. Okay, third down defense. Lions are number one. Okay, defense third down rate 31.4%. There's a 31.4% chance that you will convert a third down against the Detroit Lions. Jacksonville Jaguars, 25th. Okay, 43% chance. 43.6. So almost 44% chance. They're teetering into, not quite, but they're close to 50%. Okay, they're teetering. Again, Detroit Lions are number one. Okay, so while the Jacksonville Jaguars have decent pieces, they have good pieces on their defensive line. They got Trayvon Walker over there. They got Josh Allen rushing the passer from the linebacker spot. You know, their safeties are decent and everything. They've got decent pieces, but for whatever reason, everybody in the NFL has talent. Everybody that reaches the NFL is talented. For whatever reason, the coaching, the scheming, something is not clicking. Something is not clicking. I said it again. Something is not clicking in Jacksonville. It's just not. Okay? So I expect this game, given a score prediction. I'm not going to, again, try not to predict blowouts. But I'm going to say 42-7. Or 42-6. Let's go. Let's go Dallas Cowboys. 42-6. This is the score that I am predicting for the Detroit Lions versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, Detroit Lions winning. I think what happens with the Detroit Lions is that they kind of fall back on their experience against the Tennessee Titans and go, yeah, we were a little bit asleep at the wheel and we had to get things going. And we got things going through special teams. But you don't want to rely on special teams. You don't want to rely on big returns because that stuff doesn't usually happen. What usually happens is Jared Goff comes out and doesn't throw incompletions in the first half. What usually happens is Jahmyr Gibbs averages 6.4 yards per carry. Now, obviously, averaging 3.7 last game is not helping that average. But what usually happens up until that game, last week, Jahmyr Gibbs was averaging 6.4 yards per carry. What usually happens is Monty is going to be a battering ram going through the middle. What usually happens, Amon-Ra St. Brown catches touchdowns every game. Okay? I think it's 7th straight game with a touchdown catch. That usually happens. Okay? What usually happens is if you don't cover Jameson Williams properly, he's taking it to the house, or he's getting a big gain, or he's getting a big catch. So all of these things that usually happen on the Detroit Lions offense is what I believe that the Detroit Lions will get back to from the start of this game. Okay? Not expecting Khalif Raymond to go dumb and to almost pretty much set the NFL record, if not for someone holding when he didn't even need to hold, right? For returns. Don't expect that. Okay? Don't expect Khalil Dorsey to get a 70-yard return. Don't expect those things. What you need to expect is for the Lions offense to be firing on all cylinders from the jump. Ford Field is going to be rocking. it's don't come out flat versus the Jacksonville Jaguars and leave them hanging around. Okay, the Minnesota Vikings were reading their own press clippings. They thought, "Hey, this is the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll toy with our food." Blah 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 blah. I mean, they were on the road, and that may have contributed to it. But the Minnesota Vikings didn't score a touchdown, right? And had Mac Jones not thrown 3 picks, they might have been able to just get one more touchdown, which would have won the game. Okay, so it's an NFL team. Jacksonville is. They've got bad stats. They've got good players. But, Trayvon Walker, again, even after they scored no touchdowns through 3 picks, held the Minnesota Vikings out of the end zone. They had one more opportunity. They got the stop when they needed to get it, but Trayvon Walker lost his mind and got a personal foul penalty, which gave the Minnesota Vikings a first down. And the Jacksonville Jaguars could not stop the clock. So I expect the Detroit Lions to come out. Do not play with your food. Do not toy with them. Get your trick plays going. Do everything. Run your offense. As Jared Goff has said, it's about us. As Dan Campbell has said, it's about us. It's about us executing and doing what we're supposed to do. It's not about anybody else. It just isn't. Right? Only team that can beat us is us. And we've shown that. If you don't believe that after watching the Houston Texans game, I don't know what to tell you. But that's going to be it for me, guys. Motor City Cats. Back at it. Giving you the stats and not the static. Keeping your Lions news pragmatic. I appreciate the viewership. I appreciate just a fan who was in here. I appreciate others behind the scene letting me know what was going on, during the stream and all these things. I appreciate all those things. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you smash like buttons, make sure you turn on your notifications so you can get notified. When the Motor City Cats are back at it. Once again, guys, peace.